Hey, so I was out meandering the land of Facebook and I came across this video. Watch this.
Hey, you know how black folks are always bringing up slavery and shit? Did you know that the first legal black slave owner in America was Anthony Johnson? A black man? Yeah, yeah, I know.
Not only is this crazy, it's part of American history that never gets talked about. American history. Anthony Johnson was an African who came over to the Virginia colonies in 1621 as an indentured servant. And he was the first person in the American colonies to own another person for life, following a 1655 civil court ruling. Now, when Johnson came over, like other blacks and whites, he came over and he worked for several years as an indentured servant to pay off the cost of his passage here to the New World. But when he completed his servitude, he actually did pretty well for himself. He gained his freedom. He then worked hard, built a successful tobacco farm, got married, and then he got some land. But not only did he get land, y'all, he also got servants of his own. One of those servants was a man named John Kacer. And John Kacer was also of African descent. He was also an indentured servant, an indentured servant of Anthony Johnson's. Well, John Kacer worked his time and then said he should be freed, but Anthony Johnson disagreed. Not only did Anthony Johnson disagree that his servant should be freed for his indentured servitude, but he also claimed that someone else, a neighbor, was trying to steal John Kacer, was trying to steal his property or his servant. So in 1654, Johnson took Kacer and the guy who was trying to steal Kacer to court in Virginia, and the court ruled in Johnson's favor. Okay, so let's look really quickly at the court document from that time. I got this from explorehistory.ou. And it is entitled Court Ruling on Anthony Johnson and His Servant. What I'm going to do is simply read the brief summary of it, and then I'm going to take it to the end. I will link this document in the description so you can go and take a look at it and read it for yourself. It has a lot of old-timey English in it, and so I don't want to go through all of that. But let's look at the brief description. It says, Anthony Johnson came to the British colonies in the 1621 as a servant named Antonio the Negro, according to the 1625 Virginia census. By the 1640s, however, Johnson had gained his freedom and became a landowner with slaves of his own. On March 8th, 1655, Johnson accused a neighbor of stealing his slaves. As the trial transcript below illustrates, the court found in Johnson's favor and ordered his slave returned. If we look just at the first sentence, it says, the deposition of Captain Samuel Goldsmith taken in open court, 8th of March, saith that being in the house of Anthony Johnson, Negro, okay, so Anthony Johnson is a Negro, about the beginning of November, last to receive a hogshead of tobacco, a Negro called John Kacer came to this deponent, being Captain Samuel Goldsmith, and told him that he came into Virginia for 7 or 8 years per indenture, and that he had demanded his freedom of his master, Anthony Johnson. If we continue down a little bit further, it says this day, Anthony Johnson made his complaint to the court against Mr. Robert Parker and declared that he detained his servant, John Kacer, Negro. Robert Parker was the neighbor who Anthony Johnson is saying detained his slave unfairly. The result of this trial is that the court, seriously considering and maturely weighing the premises, do find that the said Robert Parker most unjustly keepeth the said Negro from Anthony Johnson, his master, as appeareth by the deposition of Captain Samuel Goldsmith and many probably circumstances. It is therefore the judgment of the court that the said John Caser, Negro, forthwith return unto the service of his said master, Anthony Johnson, who I want to remind everyone is also a Negro, and that Robert Parker make payment of all charge in the suit. This ruling is historically significant because it marked the first legal sanction of lifelong slavery in the American colonies. Before that, we would see things like indentured servitude, and people would be released after their time of service. But this is the court case, the ruling that marked lifelong slavery. And yes, Anthony Johnson, the first man to legally own another person for life in America, was Black. So why am I harping on this? And why am I, so glad that this person, and I'm not even sure of his handle, why he would talk about this? Well, it's because today we live in a culture that often says that white people are guilty of slavery and oppression, and only white people are guilty of this. And because of that, white people need to do all of these things or face all of these consequences even today. But that's not true. The sin of slavery is a human problem. It is a problem of sin, not of skin color. And the sooner we realize that, the better off our culture and our nation will be. If we don't tell the truth about history and all of history, because this is American history, we create false guilt and false victimhood and pride. And so when we think about history, we should be focusing on what is true and how do we tell a true and complete narrative. I tend to say that in scripture, we see Israel as a prize, and we also see her as a prostitute. Scripture is not remiss in leaving out the struggles and the sinful areas of Israel's history. And when I think about America, I think of her the same way. America is the best country on the planet, and yet she has some very rough pieces of her history. And so it would help us and it would do us well to be able to look at America in her totality and not just for the wickedness that some people want to harp on. I hope you found this helpful. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey, if you enjoyed this content, come check out the Center for Biblical Unity. Download our free ebook, Is Christianity a White Man's Religion? Click on the link in the description below.